I've been watching all of up to this point, season 3 of The Chosen, and in the most recent episode, I saw a scene between Mary and Tamar that I think is pretty significant as far as filmmaking and production goes, and I believe it is something that we can all learn from. So today I'm going to be doing a analysis, a filmmaking reaction to a specific scene from the most recent episode in The Chosen season 3. It is a kind of a long scene, and I remember when I was watching it, I actually was thinking, man, this scene is pretty extensive. And I believe it was written to be long because it's really important for the character of Tamar specifically, but very much so the relationship between Mary and Tamar. And they've had a few conflicts with each other in this season. And so I think it was important that they take time and go through this very long scene. However, with a long scene and something that's very emotionally deep and emotionally heavy, like this scene was, the cinematography, the production, the shots that they actually got for the interaction between these two characters was kind of minimal, but done in the most classic, most baseline, simple cinematic filmmaking production manner. And I want to break down what that is. And it has to do with the way the intensity moves, how they get connected as characters, how they're communicating, or even how they're kind of misunderstanding each other throughout the scene. And so that kind of leads us to the very first shot here.
Are we okay?
In the scene, they talk a little bit about grapes and olives, and then Tamar comes and sits down, and there's like this long separation. So right over here, we have Tamar, and we have Mary here at the end of the table. And there's a long table here, but it's composed in such a way that we're following the 180-degree rule throughout the scene, but we also have beautiful leading lines with this table. I mean, tables are one of the best ways to get leading lines, especially if someone is seated at one. So this whole scene is kind of over the shoulder shots for the interaction, for this extensive interaction. And constantly, it's just simply mirroring each other. So a few cinematic tricks is we have the main light source over here, which is the doorway that is open. And we have literally a mirrored version of this same shot with Tamar, where you have the table here, except it's over Mary's shoulder with the focus on Tamar over here. But it's literally mirrored from each other. And we know where the light sources are, this door that's open, as well as we get a little bit of backlight into the room from this door that's open here. So they communicate the lighting really well. They also chose to shoot on the shadow side, which is always the cinematic choice. So the side of the face that's closest to the camera is going to be the shadow side. And it makes things have better depth. And it's kind of the standard cinematic side that you light from whenever you choose a side that you're filming for the 180-degree rule. If we go back to this shot, you see it's the same thing. We have the shadow side that's closest to the camera, and then the light side that's closest to the light source on the other side of the 180-degree line, which runs straight this way, and on this picture, straight this way. So as you can see, these first two shots, they're mirroring each other, and it's wide because there's disconnection between the two characters. They need to talk some things through, but they have to work up to it. And you'll see as we go on, they get a little closer.
I thought you were rude to Zebedee.
At the oil tasting?
Yes.
I didn't mean to be.
And this is kind of like when they start making a connection. They start to get into the nitty-gritty, if you will, of the conversation. And it's literally just very simple over the shoulder shots. But this long table is starting to feel a lot shorter. So we have an over the shoulder of Mary over Tamar's shoulder. And we have the over the shoulder of Tamar over Mary's shoulder right here, with Tamar as the focus. But they're constantly mirroring each other. It's very simple production, but it's constantly getting closer. It's making this long distance between them becomes shorter, and it's communicating that they, as characters, as women, are getting more connected with each other, or at least dealing with the problems that they are facing relationally. And it's interesting, as you go through this, in the first kind of half of the scene, they are having this conversation either at the long table length, or they get a little closer where they're, noticing each other's emotions, each other's conversation, and each other's thoughts more intimately. But I noticed something interesting. Every time during the conversation, there's like a miscommunication or a misunderstanding, or someone's anger or annoyance starts to rise with the other. It breaks the connection. It breaks this kind of straight on eye line that we see here, and we get this side shot.
What else?
What do you mean? Tamar, please.
It's fine. I don't need to know what it is about me. But I do have a right to be concerned when it comes to our work.
So it's almost like a transition. It's like one character makes an accusation or misunderstands another, and the other person has to react like they're not understanding. She's not understanding what I'm talking about, or what she said kind of changes the direction of this conversation, and it breaks it up and does kind of this hard side angle where we're mostly seeing the shadow side of these characters' faces here. And it breaks the eye line. If you notice, it's the difference between like kind of looking right off the lens like I'm doing right now, or looking completely away from the lens. It literally breaks the connection between the characters, and we see the mirrored version of that same shot here with Tamar as well. And then as they get more connected, as they find the conversation again, we get an even closer.
You always know what to say. Even correct the boys when they fight.
Why are you bringing the boys into this?
Is this because I can't write or read?
No.
Then what?
But you...
The difference between, here, which they were feeling close, now they're becoming more intimate with their conversation. They're starting to understand each other more. You get even closer. And this is like, you'll see this all over filmmaking. I wanted to point this out because it's done so beautifully here. As you go through the scene, if there's disconnection or there's an awkwardness or a distance between characters, you would start wide, and as they become more intimate, or as they start connecting in the conversation more deeply, then you would get closer to show, like, it's the same way when you're having a deep conversation with an individual, you start becoming more engaged with the character. The world around you disappears, and really the person you're talking to and trying to communicate your thoughts and ideas to becomes more of the focus. And that's literally here. It's like in this shot, everything is out of focus. The walls, the whole world, the table, everything's out except for the character of Mary and the character of Tamar. Everything else becomes distant or out of focus, and they're completely connected with each other as they go through the scene.
It must be very painful. But Jesus forgave you.
And like I said at the beginning of the video, this scene is kind of pivotal to learning the backstory and getting some real strong character development for Tamar specifically. And that's why we don't get this kind of what they would call a choker shot from Mary, because Mary's kind of learning about Tamar through their frustrating and ultimately forgiving conversation. But when Tamar reveals some really deep information about her as an individual, we get this really tight shot, which we don't see that they filmed with Mary, or they didn't include it in the cut.
What do you see?
I don't understand.
There. Between the beats.
She's the one that we're really getting to know in this scene. We're seeing her backstory. She talks about the necklace that she's wearing right here, how it's significant to her family, and how she doesn't want to part with it because it was, I don't want to spoil anything, but it has to do significantly with her mother and father. But we get this choker shot because we're becoming really intimate with Tamar's story, and we see that kind of reflected instead of a reflecting choker shot of Mary, it just cuts between this really close emotional shot with a shot like this or a shot like this with Mary, who's experiencing Tamar's story and her as a person in a deep way, and we really see the emotion from Tamar in a choker shot. And if you want to know what a choker shot is, basically, some people call it a close-up or an extreme close-up. An extreme close-up can really be anywhere between the eyes and the face, or really just, you can get just the eyes. That's kind of extreme close-ups. But a standard choker shot is you're kind of cutting the top of the head off like that, but you're leaving some breathing room below the chin. So that, just for some basic information, that's a good choker shot. If a person's face kind of looks like this in your frame, or just a nice oval or U shape in the frame with the top of their forehead or the top of their head cut off, that's standard choker shot. But this is beautiful editing. I encourage you to go check out the most recent episode of The Chosen season 3 and look for this scene. Like I said, it's a longer scene, but the way it's cut together is thoughtful, it's interesting, it engages you, it allows you to move through the emotional journey these two characters have with each other. But at the same time, it is like filmmaking and scene production or scene development 101. I mean, it's super simple, and honestly, anybody, whether indie filmmaker, high production, this is like the baseline information that you would use to set up a scene to make it effective, communicate appropriately, and to get the job done. And I thought it struck me how well done it was and how simple it was. And I hope that for you, this is informative. I hope that it gets your thoughts and ideas for your own stories spinning and thinking about how would I film a scene between two characters in a simple yet effective way, and how will that be edited together, similar to the way this scene from The Chosen was edited together. So I hope that you enjoyed this. I really appreciate you sticking with me and hearing my thoughts and my analysis for this scene. If you enjoyed it, I ask you to please subscribe to the channel. I'd really appreciate to hear your thoughts for this video and videos in the future, so I'd love for you to stick around. I appreciate it if you would like this video so that more people can get exposed to this specific content. If you're interested in more content like this, just go ahead and click through to the next video that's going to be recommended to you right now.